kind of funny to think that the late great Harold Ramis directed a comedy movie about a New York gangster played by Robert De Niro being consulted by a psychiatrist who appears to resemble Billy Crystal. Yeah. Let's take a look. Hello YouTube, Film Buff 06 here, coming your way with a review for the 1999 gangster comedy film Analyze This, which was co-written and directed by the late great Harold Ramis, and it stars Robert De Niro, Billy Crystal, who is probably best known to Pixar fans for voicing Mike Wazowski in Monsters, Inc. and Monsters University, and is also well known for his roles in the likes of The Princess Bride and When Harry Met Sally, just to name a select few, as well as being the second most prolific host of the Oscars after Bob Hope. Lisa Kudrow, aka Phoebe from Friends, Chazz Palminteri, Joe Viterelli, and Max Casella, who went on the following year to voice one of the lemur characters in Disney's Dinosaur, and also, believe it or not, had actually played the character of Timon in the original Broadway stage production of The Lion King at the time. Now, Martin Scorsese was first approached to direct this project, but he turned it down. Then Robert De Niro and Billy Crystal briefly toyed with the idea of co-directing it themselves before successfully offering it to Harold Ramis. Also, when this film initially came out, despite having the misfortune of opening a couple of months after the network TV premiere of The Sopranos with the late James Gandolfini, it was critically well received and somehow generated enough money for Warner Brothers to make the crappy sequel that was eventually released 3 years later, Analyze That, which I'm not really that bothered to review on this channel anyway. Now, the story of this film is loosely based on a true-life incident involving the infamous mobster John Gotti, and is basically about a troubled New York mob boss named Paul Vitti, played by Robert De Niro, who arranges for his psychiatrist, Dr. Ben Sobel, played by Billy Crystal, who is about to get married to a pretty news reporter named Laura, played by Lisa Kudrow, to try and cure him of his constant anxiety and panic attacks, and really give him back his confidence before he heads out to an important mob meeting, and especially before his nemesis Primo Sidone, played by Chazz Palminteri, finds out about his weakness, and thus comedy ensues. That is basically it. So, what are my thoughts on Analyze This? I thought it was a really funny, fast-paced, enjoyable, and entertaining comedy. I like the fact that this film is kind of almost like a Mel Brooks film, such as Blazing Saddles, like Blazing Saddles, or Young Frankenstein, or even Spaceballs, in that it takes an otherwise serious genre, in this case the gangster genre, and it turns said genre 180 to brilliant and light-hearted effect. The story is very slight, quite predictable at times, and is pretty much the same type of buddy comedy story that has been told before loads and loads of times in other movies of the genre, such as Ted, Trading Places, Midnight Run, Monsters Inc., the Toy Story trilogy, What About Bob, etc. I thought the way Harold Ramis directed this film was fantastic, and his screenplay with Peter Tolan and playwright Kenneth Lonergan, who later went on to also write the screenplays for You Can Count on Me, Margaret, and Gangs of New York, was fantastically well written, with hilarious one-liners, like, for example, a priceless moment when after Paul inadvertently ruins Ben's wedding to Laura after one of his rivals gets pushed out of a bedroom window, Ben sarcastically takes a guess at what the unfortunate victim's suicide note would have said by saying, "Life is bullshit, I can't fucking take it no more, signed, the dead guy." makes me laugh even saying it, actually. And also some clever and witty references to other gangster films like Goodfellas, The Untouchables, you know, when Chazz Palminteri paraphrases Robert De Niro as Al Capone when he says the infamous line, "I want him dead, I want his family dead." And even the Godfather movies. I mean, when Ben pretends to be a mobster at the meeting towards the end of the movie, which, by the way, you know, does provide a few laughs. He says, "You broke my heart. You broke my heart." Thus, quoting Michael from Godfather 2 when he finds out about Fredo's betrayal of him. and especially a very well done reenactment of the iconic scene from Godfather 1, where Sollozzo's henchmen attempt to assassinate Vito after he buys a set of oranges. The jazzy music by Howard Shore, who had previously composed the music to Silence of the Lambs, and of course later went on to compose the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit films, was very, very nice. Whenever they are together on screen, Robert De Niro and Billy Crystal make for a fantastic comedy double act in this movie. Very much, reminiscent of some of the great, classic comedy double acts like Laurel and Hardy, Abbott and Costello, Morecambe and Wise, The Two Ronnies, Antendek. That's debatable. The Chuckle Brothers, Steve Martin and John Candy from Planes, Trains and Automobiles, etc., etc., etc. And their chemistry together was amazing and very enjoyable to watch. Billy Crystal does a great job as the comic foil. But Robert De Niro especially, I thought, did an absolutely brilliant job at deftly spoofing the wise guy persona that had and actually has been a staple of his fantastic career ever since his roles in the likes of Mean Streets, Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, Godfather Part 2, Goodfellas, Casino, and Heat, just to name a few, and proves here, likewise with his previous roles in The King of Comedy and Midnight Run, and also his subsequent role in the Meet the Parents trilogy, to name a few, that there is a comedic side to his acting, and the sight of him actually crying like Bert Lahr as the Cowardly Lion from The Wizard of Oz has to be and does elicit some of the funniest moments I have ever seen. I mean, also the memorable moments where he wags his finger at Billy Crystal and says, "You're good. No, you are good." And then proceeds to squeeze his cheeks like this are also brilliant. And I think I do think he rightfully deserved his Golden Globe nomination. In my opinion, anyway. Even though most of the supporting cast, including Lisa Kudrow, Joe Viterelli and Chazz Palminteri, do fine jobs in their roles, I would have liked to have seen their characters be developed a little bit more. I mean, I know, just a little nitpick, really, but just me being nitpicky, but annoyingly nitpicky anyway, but there you go. Now, if you are interested in the field of psychiatry, or are a Robert De Niro or Billy Crystal fan, or if you're just a fan of mob and or comedy movies in general, I would very much recommend that you go and check this movie out. In conclusion, my overall rating for Analyze This is going to be a 9.5 out of 10. Now, feel free to leave a comment in the section below and let me know your thoughts on Analyze This. Plus, feel free to subscribe to my channel as always. And until my next video, which is going to be the ridiculously long-awaited 6-part of my Disney villain character reviews series, in which I'm going to be talking about Ursula the Sea Witch from The Little Mermaid. Do take care, everyone, and goodbye.